one point, I went to do a talk in Switzerland, which is a terrible place to be from. Sorry, Swiss people, but brutal. And I was, it's a terrible place. It's a bunch of girls who are not particularly attractive or interesting who believe that they're supermodels and amazing. And you talk to them and you're like, no.
Vancouver?
Yeah, it's not good. So we decided we're just going to stay. Our friend had this amazing place. It was just a beautiful lake and very, very nice. So we just stayed there. We're like, we're not going to leave the house. Forget this. So we stayed in and we just read books. So I was looking at his bookshelf and I'd read most of the books. You know, he was into community and into self-help as well. And I saw this book. It was just a black book. It just said Mode 1 on the side. And I pulled it out and it was this. Just some eyes. And I was like, what's this? This sounds interesting. And I sat down and I started reading the book. And I read the entire book without ever stopping or getting off the couch. It just sucked me in. I think it's the only book I've ever read in one sitting in my life. I've never read a whole book without getting up, ever. Okay, I just went, it was awesome. And it totally changed the way I look at women and dating and everything. It just blew my reality. And so when I decided to come on an event that was about being direct and honest and upfront with the chicks, and as men, I remember thinking to myself, I wonder if I could get Alan to come speak. And everyone was like, nah, he's a real book author. You're not going to get him to come down. I was like, no, I'm going to try. I'm going to contact him. I'm going to share my vision. I'm going to tell him what I'm doing. And you know, he'll like it. He's got to be able to, you know, he'll see it and he'll want to be part of it. And there he is! We did the event, it came out, it was great. Some of you have seen it. We did a wonderful event, it was fantastic. You know, there were tears, changed a lot of lives, and I've been getting great emails to this day from people who went to the first event. We've done 2 more so far, and so it's a real honor and pleasure to have what many consider, including myself, to be I suppose, the top, or AKA, perhaps even the original and kind of father of direct, authentic game, all the way from the United States of America. Give it up for Alan Roger Currie.
Thank you, Sasha. First, I'm glad to have all you guys here. It's Saturday, you guys can be doing anything, but you're here, and I appreciate that. I got much love and respect for Sasha because I'm one who believes that if you want to leave an indelible impression on life, you got to think outside the box. And Sasha definitely thinks outside the box. He doesn't follow the herd. He's his own man. He's a visionary. He's always looking 5, 10 years ahead. And the fact that he created this event that started in London, and this will be now the 4th installment, I think it's a great event for a lot of guys. I've been getting a lot of great feedback from the previous event from guys, and I'm happy to be here. Matter of fact, I'm really happy to be here because I was telling the guys, these guys were taking pictures with me before I spoke. They were buying my books before I spoke. That rarely if ever happens. It's usually after I finish. Raise your hand, and you won't hurt my feelings. Raise your hand if you're like, before you came here today, you were like, who the fuck is Alan Roger Currie? The one woman in the back, she rose her hand real quick. She's like, I don't know who the fuck you are. Sasha just said there was some black guy in his crew, and that's all he said, and that you talked a lot. Okay. That determines how much background story I give of myself, whether I'm long-winded or... Now, one promise I did make for Sasha is that I was going to operate within my designated parameters, because in Las Vegas, some of the other speakers were making fun of me. One guy said, I left the Direct Dating Summit, I had a house built, and I had a couple kids, and I came back, and Alan Roger Currie was still talking. And I was like, oh, okay, it's like that, huh? Who is Alan Roger Currie? What the heck is Mode 1 behavior? That's what I'll cover first. Then I'll transition to the two primary fears that negatively affect men and why I believe a direct approach is more advantageous, beneficial, and time efficient than an indirect approach. Born and raised in Gary, Indiana, that city is mostly known for being a hometown of Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5. Graduated from Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. Matter of fact, it's funny, one of the first guys I met when I was a freshman was a guy from Germany. He was in the music school, because any university's music school is known worldwide. At one point, it was actually ranked the #1 music school in the world. I have a degree in economics. The starting point, I'll try to condense this because, again, a lot of you guys are already familiar with me and you probably know a lot of my backstory. Anybody in here know about the infamous grocery store story? Anybody? Well, Johnny's supporter, he knows. He's a fellow speaker. Anybody else? Okay, well, then I can tell that story. Because you could say that's the reason why I'm speaking here today, is because I got my dick sucked in the grocery store. I mean, I'm real serious. That was the turning point in terms of me sharing my knowledge and wisdom with other people. What happened was, well, technically the first starting point was the summer before my freshman year in college. I saw this porno movie called Talk Dirty to Me that featured this legendary adult film actor. He's now passed away. His name was John Leslie. And he played this character, like a slacker womanizer. And you can say he was Mo 1. His character was Mo 1. He would just go up to women, and within the first 5 to 10 minutes of conversing with them, he'd tell them that he wanted to fuck them. And at that time, when I saw that, that was mind-blowing to me. I was like, whoa, you can't just walk up to a woman you don't know and just tell her you want to fuck her. Get the fuck out of here. And my older brother, he was like, dude, don't pay attention to that, that's a movie. Now fast forward to a couple years into my college career, I was starting to get some complaints from women. And this is where I'm gonna contradict my fellow speaker. Now, he said a lot of things I agree with, bad boy. He said a lot of things I agree with. But the very last thing he said at the end, I don't know if he was saying it jokingly or seriously, when he talked about don't let a woman know that you just want to fuck casually until after you fucked her. Well, I was starting to get complaints from women in college, the ones I was cool with. They would say, Alan, can I ask you something? I said, sure. They say, how come guys will give you the impression that they really care for you and want this long-term, meaningful relationship with you, but then after you have sex with them X number of days, X number of weeks, all of a sudden you just don't hear from them anymore? I said, well, that's easy. They didn't want a relationship, they just wanted to fuck you. And the unanimous response I would get, they say, well, why don't they just say that? Why don't they just tell us that up front? More than likely, if we're really attracted to them, that's what we're gonna do. But we wanna know that up front. So at first, I kind of criticized them. I said, oh, you girls just whining and complaining. I always wanna whine. But then honestly, I became more empathetic to them. So I went to some of my friends and frat brothers. And I said, hey guys, let me ask you something. When you want casual sex from a woman, do you tell her that straightforwardly, or do you lead her to believe you want a relationship? And they basically started laughing at me like, come on, Alan, you're not that naive, are you? Dude, you gotta bullshit women when you first meet them, dude. Come on, man, you gotta lie to them. You can't let women know what you're really thinking. And that's why the subtitle of my first book is called Mo 1, Let the Women Know What You're Really Thinking. Because so many guys will say, you can't let women know what you're really thinking. You know, when you first meet them, you gotta talk about the weather and their favorite movie and shit. Then you gotta, you know, say some romantic shit. Then you gotta give them the feel that you're gonna be their next boyfriend. Then once you get the pussy, then you tell them, you know, well, you know, I wasn't really looking for anything serious. That's some bullshit. So a few of them challenged me. They said, okay, Alan, if you want to be this Mr. Straightforward guy, why don't you, at our next party, we want to see you go up to some women and straightforwardly tell them that you want to fuck them. They were basically like, we dare you to do that shit. Dude, you're gonna be cursed the fuck out. You're gonna be slapped. You're gonna have a drink thrown in your face. Well, I did it. I went up to some women and I said, hey, you know, what you doing the rest of the weekend? Oh, I don't know. Why you ask? I said, because I want to just fuck the shit out of you. Excuse me? You're excused. I beg your pardon? You don't need to beg right now. You know, I'm a respectable lady. I'm not a whore. I'm not a slut. That's good. I don't like whores or sluts, so we'll get along fine. You know, I'm not used to men talking to me this way. That's good. That means I'm special, I'm unique. I had a response for everything they said. That finally, to my pleasant surprise, this is what they would do. It was almost this predictable pattern. They would give me like about 5 minutes of shit. Just like they would look around, and they would say, you so nasty. What's your name again? Here's my number. You nasty. So it was funny, guys would see this. And what a lot of guys were seeing, say they were a few feet away, they would see me approach a woman and they would initially see her going off and they would start laughing like, look at Alan over there, he's crashing and burning. Next thing you know, some of these women, I would start tongue kissing them, or at minimum, they were writing down a number and my friends would be like, what the fuck? So they was like, dude, you were telling these women you want to fuck them, right? I was like, yeah. It was like, okay, how did you do that though? How did I do what? I mean, they looked like they was cursing you the fuck out one moment. The next moment I saw them smiling, I saw them laughing. I want to know what you did to transition, to get their demeanor from a negative, adverse. I said, I don't know if I did anything other than I just remained very cool, calm, collected. I didn't freak out on them freaking out. I didn't get theatrical in response to them being theatrical. And I stuck to my guns, everything I said. And the women who were really interested, they let me know. You know, what's interesting, and I say this to guys repeatedly, women who are genuinely not interested in fucking you, they don't go into those theatrics like you know, it's, excuse me, I beg your pardon, blah, 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 blah. They just will very calmly say, I'm not interested. They'll usually even compliment your approach. I've had women say, God, I love how bold and straightforward you are. I gotta let you know I'm married, or I got a boyfriend, or just simply I'm not interested, but I love your approach. But the 90% of women who do all that theatrical shit, and I'll get to this term later, but they're what I call pretenders. Those are pretenders. So anyway, I started developing a reputation on IU's campus. Guys would be like, man, you know Alan Roger Currie? Man, that dude is so straightforward, man. I mean, he'll like meet a woman at 8 o'clock and by 8:05, he's talking about putting his dick in her mouth and fucking them doggy style, man. It's like crazy, man. So I started getting this little rep, and my brother, who was at another campus, transferred to the Bloomington campus, and guys would come up to him. They were like, are you Alan's brother? You say, yeah. Say, man, your brother, man, he's like crazy. His balls are out, man. My brother, he was like, what are you talking about? They were like, man, he will go up to women and like, literally in the first 2 or 3 minutes, he'll be like, hey, you know, I'm gonna fuck the shit out of you. We fucking today or what? And my brother, he hadn't seen that side of me. So he's like, get the fuck out of here. He was skeptical. He was wary of Mo. So he kept asking about it. He said, I keep hearing that you're just really bold and straightforward with women, that you just don't hesitate, let them know what you want to do in sex. I said, this is true. He's like, get out of here, man. Until the day that made him a believer, and again, this ultimately results to me being here. We're coming from a party, and there's this store, it's still in Bloomington. It's a 24-hour store called Kroger's. It's about 1:32 in the morning. And there was this, right when we pulled up, there was this hot chick that pulled up in this mini skirt. And she got out, and my brother noticed her first. He said, fuck, look at that mini skirt. She is fucking hot. I said, yeah, I'll probably be fucking in 2 to 3 weeks. He's like, there you go, mister. You what? You gonna go in there and talk some shit to her? You gonna get her number? I said, I pretty much will guarantee you I'll get her phone number. He said, okay, go in there and work your magic. I went in there and got my food. I saw her in the aisle. I approached her. I'll give you some details of approach. I approached, she was standing in the aisle. She was holding up 2 shampoos like she couldn't make up her mind which shampoo. So I approached her, and I didn't say anything. This is a common habit of mine. I didn't say anything initially. I just looked at her. I gave her heavy duty, direct eye contact. And she said, didn't your mother or somebody tell you that it's rude to stare? You know that, don't you? And I just said, so? And I was telling some of the guys I was talking to earlier, they were getting a kick out of that. I said, one of the words, when you start being one-on-one, you learn to say a lot is so. I said that to so many women, but I told her, I said, so? And she said, you're a piece of work. I said, yeah. And she said, well, why don't you help me pick these shampoos? I can't make up my mind. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Do I really look like I give a fuck about women's shampoo? I said, look at me and please answer that question. She said, you're really a piece of work. So this is where she opens the door for me. She said, okay, since you don't want to help me with my shampoo, you must be thinking about something else. What's really on, what's your name again? I said, Alan. So what's on Alan's mind right now? I said, leaning you up against a wall and sliding that mini skirt up and fucking the shit out of you. Oh my God, I don't believe you said that. Oh my God, no man has ever said anything like that to me before. I was like, and? So we, exchanged a few other comments. Anyway, we start tongue kissing. And she said, it feels like you happy to see me, because she could tell my dick was getting hard. And I said, yeah, you got my dick real hard. She said, oh, you just saying that. I said, oh, that sounds like an invitation to show you. And she kind of said something to the effect like, you're not bold enough to show me in here. She didn't know Alan Roger Currie. Right there in that aisle at 2 o'clock in the morning, I unzipped my pants and pulled out my dick. And she was just like, wow, you actually pulled it out. Then we tongue kissed some more, and then I did the gesture thing. I softly put my hands on shoulders as if to say, get on your knees. And she complied. She started sucking my dick in the store. And she would have finished in there, but the stock boy who was walking by, do-de-dee-do. Whoa, what the fuck? Get the fuck. And of course, she freaked out. So she gives me the keys of her car. Now, she don't even know me. I could have been a car thief or something. She gives me the keys of her car. She says, wait for me. She describes her car, but I said, I already know what car you're in. So she gives me the keys of her car, and I walk outside. I act like I'm going back to my brother's car, and then I just stop. And my brother looks at me like, what the fuck you doing? And I go like this and point at her car. And my brother's like, no way, get the fuck. So he sees me, I go and sit in the passenger seat. She comes out about 6, 7, 8 minutes later. He could see us, because he was 3 parking spaces away. We might have talked for like 30 seconds, then he just saw her head drop in my lap, and she finished sucking my dick. And he was over there, I can't do his impersonation that would do him justice, but his face, he was freaking the fuck out. He was looking like, what the? Like, how did you pull this shit off? So anyway, when it's all done, he said, dude. He said, bro. Okay, he said, I was a skeptic. He said, I am a believer now, dude. He said, you did not know this woman before tonight. I said, no. He said, you just went in there and you talked some shit to her. And I said, yeah, she was actually sucking my dick in the store. And then she finished. It's like, what the fuck, man? I mean, what'd you do? You start talking about groceries? I said, no, dude, I skipped all that shit, dude. I just got to the point. He said, so let me understand this. You just go up to women and you immediately get to the point that you want to fuck them, and they're not like slapping you or cursing you out. I said, I've never been slapped. Sure, they have some harsh words sometimes, but I don't trip on that. And anyway, that's when he said, dude, you got to put this on paper. He said, if you're getting results like this, you have got to put this on paper. Number one, you got to teach me how to do this shit. And he said, I think you could help some other guys learn how to be as bold and straightforward as you are. And for years, probably to my detriment, I resisted that invitation. I was like, dude, this is something that works with my personality. I ain't sharing this with nobody else. Fuck that. And he kept bugging me. He said, come on, man. Just write something again, first for me, and then that you can share with other guys. I said, I ain't trying to share this with other people. I mean, if they want to watch me and try to imitate me, fine. But I'm not doing no formal document or anything. But then fast forward to the mid-90s, he was working in San Diego, and he had about 8 to 10 guys that he said would always ask him for dating advice. And he would always tell me, he said, man, I give them my brand of dating advice, but then I always inevitably tell them stories about you. And they get really intrigued. They're like, man, really? Damn, your brother did. He said, what? And he got what result? Fuck, man, can your brother come down and like talk to us? So he said, man, can you put together like some kind of like a pamphlet? And that's when this came about. I finally said, okay, and I put together about a 30-page pamphlet. It was called the Mo 1 Principles. And I sent it to him. He gave it to about, I want to say 8 guys. 3 of the guys immediately dismissed it. They was like, this shit's just way too ballsy. They're like, I know I can't pull this off. The other 5 guys adhered to the principles, and to all of their pleasant surprise, they start experiencing significant improvements and results over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. I think the 2 most notable stories I always talk about, one guy, his was real simple. His name was Keith. Handsome guy, young guy. He had moved from Milwaukee, Wisconsin to San Diego. And he was striking out from women. And my first main principle was diminish your trivial bullshit small talk by like 90 to 95%. What do I mean trivial bullshit small talk? I'm sure one or more guys in this room is going to a woman, hey, so weather's great, isn't it? Golly, cool, yeah, like you come here often? Yeah, great. So what's the last good movie you saw? You always hear those like little mini hesitations because you're thinking of shit to say. Here's the thing. Guys will say to me, they'll say, Alan, I've been around a lot of attractive women and I really don't know what to say to them. I said, that's bullshit. They said, no, I'm serious. I said, that's bullshit. You always fucking know what to say to somebody. You always fucking know what to say to somebody. What you're really saying when you say, I don't know what to say, is you're saying, I don't know what to say to this person that will guarantee me that I will receive a positive, enthusiastic response from them. That's what men are really saying when they say, I don't know what to say. You're saying, I don't know what to say to this woman that will guarantee that she's gonna smile, that she's gonna react positively to me, that she's gonna give me a reciprocal reaction. But anyway, going back to that principle, I said, yeah, cut down small talk. So this guy, Keith, he said, man, I was a major small talker. But after reading my pamphlet, he was just going up to one, he said, hey, you know, you're fucking hot. We need to connect in the next week or 2. He said most of them were like, okay. And he said, he was like, fuck, it's this easy? The fuck? Then another guy, this story is more interesting. This was a guy, think of the shyest guy you know, multiply him by 5, and then that was this guy. He's another worker of my brother. He was totally shy around women, but he kept reading my pamphlet. My brother said he must have came to him like every other day, like, my brother's name is Steven. He said, Steven, you think I can pull this off? My brother was like, sure. But he kept saying, no, because he was the type that was scared to just say hello to a woman. Anyway, he had a crush on this woman that worked in a mall. I didn't see her, but my brother said she was pretty hot. And he went up to her. It was funny the way he described the story to my brother, and my brother related to me. He said externally, he tried to have the demeanor of Sean Connery as James Bond. But he said inside, he was like Pee Wee Herman. He was like, please don't insult me, please don't criticize me. But he said he approached the woman, he said, I have no doubt in my mind that you want to share my company in the next couple of weeks. And she said, excuse me? I tell guys, I say, women always, when you say something bold, provocative, or just something they're not used to, I said, just simply calmly say, you're excused. So he said, you're excused. And she said, I don't even know you. He said, that's exactly why we need to connect, so you can get to know me and get to know you. So she said, well, I don't usually go out with guys that I don't know. He said, well, I don't want you to do what you usually do, because then you compare me to everybody else. He said, I'm unique. Anyway, the final thing I said in this book, I said, if a woman throws out her suggestions, you don't want to trash her suggestions, but if they're not in line with yours, you just simply say, those are all desirable options. But my more preferred option is, and that's what he did. She said, well, what are we going to do if we do connect? Like, say I do, you're going to take me to the movies, you're going to take me out to dinner, you're going to take me to a concert? He said, those are all desirable options. But my more preferred option is to come over to your place, when you come over mine, we watch a movie, give each other a mutual erotic massage, and then we just do what a man and woman naturally does. And he said she freaked out. What? Are you crazy? Are you some kind of creep? I mean, you don't even know me, blah, 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 blah. And now he admitted to my brother, he said at that point, he was that close to apologizing. And said, oh my God, you know, I didn't mean to say this. You know, this guy I worked for, his brother wrote this book, and like he told me to say all this shit. And like, golly. And he said he was that close. But that was one of my other principles. I said, once you say something bold, provocative, X-rated, whatever, don't ever, and I get a lot of blowback from this, but don't ever apologize for it. If you feel like you got to apologize for something, then don't say the shit. It's simple as that. Don't let it come out your mouth. But, because if you say something bold and then you apologize for it, how does that make you look? Without me telling you, how does that make you look?
She'd be weak.
Weak. Makes you look like you're pretending to have balls, but you really don't. There's no quicker way to turn off a woman than to make her, let her know that you're just pretending to have balls, but you really don't. Matter of fact, well, let me finish this guy's story. So anyway, long story short, she ended up, she said, you know what? I'm gonna take a chance. Your approach is totally different, but I have to say in a way it was refreshing. They not only connected, 11 months later, they were engaged. They still married, as far as I know, to this day. So that guy and the first guy I told you about came to my brother, they was like, man, tell your brother to turn this into a book. This shit's gold. This shit is like just, it's totally changed my social life. Now, a quick segue to another story. I had another guy that I was helping out, a friend of mine, and this goes back to about pretending to have balls. He was like, Alan, man, I've been saying a lot of stuff to women that I think is, you know, bold and provocative, but man, I'm just striking out left and right. I said, well, give me examples of what you're saying. And he would give me some examples. I said, okay, yeah, that's pretty bold. I said, but what? Just nothing. And he said, yeah, some of them, you know, they might giggle or some had negative reactions, but I said, well, I'm gonna hang out with you, I'm gonna watch you. So I watched him. Immediately saw what his problem was. He would say bold shit, like he might walk up to one and say, yeah, you know, we need to connect so I can just fuck you real good. But if they got theatrical, he said, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that, golly, what am I thinking? I was so rude. I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable. He was dead meat in the water. See, men think that is the gentlemanly thing to do, but again, you don't want to ever pretend like you got balls, only to acknowledge later that you really don't. So I said, dude, you only got one adjustment you need to make. Stop fucking apologizing. Stop that. He said, but man, I don't want these girls to think I'm just, you know, a complete asshole. And see, that relates to the fears. Oh, these are some of my other books. Most of my primary books are on Amazon. You go on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Again, this is the book I have here. Ooh, say it again. My latest is this. I'm going to be mainly talking about stuff to do with the possibility of sex tomorrow, at tomorrow's session. I host 2 internet radio shows. I host one called Upfront and Straightforward with Alan Roger Currie. It's the #1 most listened to show under the category of dating and relationships on the Blog Talk Radio Network. And I host a show called The Erotic Conversation. Matter of fact, if you're listening to a couple episodes of Erotic Conversations, that's all female guests. When we talk about fucking, I've talked about whole direct, indirect with them. And like this one woman, well, I'll talk about her when we talk about time wasters tomorrow, but she said something interesting. I do one-on-one coaching sessions in basically 3 formats. I do a 4-hour half-day session with guys. I've done a 7-hour full day, and then I do a full weekend, which is like 4 hours one day, 8 hours another day, and then 3 or 4 hours another day. Then as well, I've done Skype consultations with guys in probably like 20 different countries. Four modes of verbal communication. Now it's interesting. I was telling you in college I started being mode 1, but I didn't call it mode 1. I just called it bold, straightforward behavior. Who's read mode 1? I know there's at least a couple guys in here who've read mode 1. Okay. Well, if you read mode 1, there's a story I'll tell. I had an interaction with a woman. She was actually a student, a former student of my mother. My mother used to be a teacher. And it was the night I shared with her that made me come up with the term mode 1. What happened, she was on a bus stop and I recognized her. And I asked her for a ride. At first she looked at me like, I'm not getting in the car with you. I don't know you. I said, don't you know a Mrs. Currie? She said, oh, Mrs. Currie, I love Mrs. Currie. That's like my favorite teacher. I said, I'm her son. She said, oh, okay. I said, it's starting to rain. You want to ride? She said, sure. So we were talking and she just started talking about a whole bunch of shit I just didn't care about. Now, for those who read my book, they know the very first sentence in my first chapter is, I hate trivial small talk. Matter of fact, I would say that's at least half the reason why I really started being mode 1. Most guys think it was geared specifically towards sex. No, I can't stand that phony, disingenuous, like I was doing an example earlier, that, you know, hey, so, what's been going on? Oh, that makes me cringe. Not only with women, like my own brother gets mad at me. This is family we're talking about. He'll say, Alan, sometimes, man, we'll be talking and you'll cut me off. I say, because you weren't talking about shit. His attitude was like, well, I'm your brother. I'm like, dude, man, if you're talking about something specific, something that's relevant, then you got all ears from me. But I don't like when people call me and they'll just be like, you know, hey, so Alan, so, you know, what's up? What's going on? I'm like, I'll get off the phone in like 2 minutes, that shit. But anyway, this woman was talking about a bunch of bullshit. Now, normally if a woman's the daughter of, say, a friend of my parent or somebody in that circle, I would just be, as I call it, pleasantly phony. But she was perceptive. She could sense it. At a point in conversation, she said, Alan, I'm getting the impression you're not really listening to me. Like you really don't care what I'm talking about. Previous situation, I probably would have been pleasantly phony and said, no, I'm listening. No, go ahead with your story. But my little, you could say, mode 1 voice was like, no, don't, just be real. So I said, you know what? I could give a fuck about any of the shit you're talking about. You're talking about your girlfriends and this gossipy shit. I don't give a fuck about that shit. And she was just like, wow. I know I asked you, but damn, you just... I said, well, I'm just going to keep it real. I said, 90% of the shit you've been talking about up to this point has been going in one ear and out the other ear because I don't give a fuck. So she said, similar to the woman in the grocery store, she opened the door for him. She said, so, okay, what do you give a fuck about? I said, finding somewhere to slide those black leggings you got on down to your knees and fuck the shit out of you. And she said, what? What did you just say? Why do women do that? What's at least one of the reasons why a woman would go, what? What did you just say? What do they want you to do? I already gave you hints. What do they want you to do at that point?
Apologize.
Yeah. That's what I call a testing your balls reaction. They're like saying basically to you, are you telling me you got the balls to say some shit like that to me? You better not. They go to bully mode like, you better not have the balls to say nothing like that to me. And they expect you to go, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. I didn't mean to say something that provocative or X-rated. That's what a lot of them are waiting for you to do. They waiting for you to back down. Like this friend I was talking about, he would do that. He would back down. Do you know as soon as I told him to stop apologizing, I didn't hear from him for about roughly 3 weeks. Then all of a sudden he called me up. He said, dude. I was like, what? He said, man, you're a fucking genius, Alan Roger Currie, dude. You're a fucking genius. I said, what's up, man? He said, man, remember you just told me to stop apologizing? He said, I ain't gonna lie, it was challenging for me to do that. But he said, man, once I stop apologizing, he said, now I'm getting laid like crazy. I said, really? He said, oh, dude, he said, like it's just like you predicted. Like a lot of women who would give me a bunch of shit be like, you motherfucker, I can't believe you said that shit to me. He said 10 minutes later, they'd be like, so how you gonna fuck me? Huh? Like you gonna let me put my legs on your shoulders? And he said it would freak him out because this woman would be going off one minute. Why do you think one of the reasons why women, other than I already said challenge you in your ball? Well, see, I have a way of jumping. That's why I have to have this type of shit because I'll jump all over the place. I was telling you why I first called this small one. Going back to the woman who was my mother's former student. First, she had a negative reaction. And I held my ground. I said, yeah, that's what I said. So she just got quiet. She got quiet for like about, 3, 4, 5 minutes. Then as we were moving closer to where she lived, there was this intersection, there was this motel, and it had a big parking lot. She said, Alan, you see that motel? I'm thinking she want to go in the motel. I'm like, sure. She said, okay, the parking lot, let's go park and talk. I said, okay. So we talked. And then again, she just kind of looked out the window, so I didn't know how to read her, because she was just like kind of spacing. So then finally she opens up, she says, I'm gonna admit something to you that's probably gonna blow your mind. I said, what? She said, remember when I was just going off on you for saying what you said to me? I said, yeah. She said, well, deep down, you got my pussy wet saying that. And actually, I knew that, but I played like I did. I said, really? She said, okay, I'm gonna lay it out to you. I'm gonna give you some female knowledge that you probably don't know. She said, us women, we know as soon as a man flirts with us, and as soon as a man approaches us in a social setting, that he wants to fuck us. We know that. But what we also tend to assume along with that is that 99% of the guys in society are not ever gonna have the balls to just straightforwardly tell us that. Like she started talking about that small talk I was talking about. She said, like, what I expect is for a guy to approach me and say, hey, what's your name? So like, what's your favorite movie? And you like coming to this restaurant? She said she expects all that shit, but she knows deep down they wanna eventually get to the point of letting her know that they wanna fuck her. But she just says she assumes that all guys are, as she called it, verbal wimps and verbal cowards. She said it's rare when you meet a guy that has the balls to just straightforwardly tell you that shit. She said, so the fact that you had the balls, she said, that's exciting to me. That's arousing to me. She said, you said what I wanted to hear, but didn't expect to hear. And then a weird thing happened. It's hard to explain this to you, but if you're a guy who's a creative guy or a guy who gets ideas, as they call it, the light bulb on the top of the head, have you ever had somebody say something and then you just start creating in your mind? Well, anyway, as soon as she said that, I don't have a photo of my matrix, but if you see my book, I have a matrix of the 4 modes. When she said, you said what I wanted to hear but don't expect to hear, my mind, figuratively speaking, just started creating this matrix. And I kind of put in each matrix what a woman wants to hear but doesn't expect to hear, what a woman wants to hear and expects to hear, what a woman doesn't want to hear but expects to hear, and what a woman doesn't want to hear or expects to hear. And then I start shaping that into, first I called it category. I would call it category 1, category 2. And I got so obsessed with that in my head that this woman, interesting enough, she was ready to fuck. And now I didn't even want to fuck. I was like, okay, yeah, where you live again? I'm gonna take you home. She was like, what are you talking about? I want to go make out. I'm like, no, we could do that a couple days from now. I gotta go home. And she was like, what the fuck? She's basically like, you got my pussy wet and now you don't want to fuck? I'm like, yeah, we can fuck tomorrow. Today is Thursday, we can fuck Friday or Saturday. And I couldn't wait to go home and draw out what I was seeing in my mind. So that's how I came out with the 4 modes of verbal communication. And I'll start with mode 3 behavior. Mode 3 behavior. All of the modes I feel are predicated on something. Predicated on something. Mode 3 behavior is predicated on your fear of rejection and your fear of being indefinitely ignored. You don't want to be rejected. That one single fear just inhibits so many men's behavior. I don't like rejection, but I'm not afraid of it. There's a big difference. Like Michael Jordan, he said something interesting, similar. I remember I was reading an interview with him. He said, I hate losing. I hate losing. But he said, I'm not afraid to lose. He said, because when you become afraid to lose, you stop taking risk. He said, like, you'll be afraid to take the game-winning shot because you're afraid if it doesn't go in, you're going to experience loss. He said, again, I don't like to lose, but he said, you cannot win if you're afraid to lose. Similar baseball players have said that about home runs. They say they don't like striking out, but their attitude is you cannot be afraid of striking out because otherwise you won't ever hit a home run. If you just stand the plate holding the bat, never swinging or swinging real timidly, you ain't gonna knock the ball out the park. So I'm not afraid of rejection, but most men are. And so how does that affect their behavior? When you're afraid of rejection, it leads to you becoming dishonest with women, disingenuous, insincere, cowardly, misleading, and manipulative. Two probably most common examples of mode 3 behavior would be a guy who's interested in dating a woman, but he pretends like he's just content with being her platonic friend. How many guys, be honest, how many of you guys have done that at least once? At least once. That was almost every hand in this room. And that's what I would predict. Because I've done it before when I was younger. Most guys, to this day, I know a number of guys who do that. They pretend like they're content with being a woman's play. Matter of fact, 2 guys I helped out in London, that was their area. I had this one guy. He was like, Alan, man, here's my thing. I got this one woman. She's my friend. And I said, wait a minute, before you go on, did you choose for her to be your friend or you just kind of accepted that role? And he didn't want to answer me because he knew what the truth was. But then he said, okay, yeah, I accepted that role. I said, why'd you do that? He said, I don't know. I guess she didn't. I wasn't thinking she was really interested. I said, okay, go on. And he said for about 1.5 years, 2 years, him and this woman had been operating as friends. But not only was she treating him like as I call it, a play brother, but this is what I say is the worst, is when you become a woman's male girlfriend or empathetic listening ear. If a woman feels so comfortable with you as a friend that she's telling you about other guys' dick she sucked and other guys she's fucked, what the fuck are you doing allowing that shit? I mean, seriously, that's some bullshit. I would never listen to a woman that I was attracted to talking to me about sucking some other guy's dick and she ain't sucking my dick. I would cut that conversation off so quick and make her head spin. That's what I told this guy. I said, dude, quit allowing yourself to be her fucking play brother. Don't listen. I said, the next time she brings up some shit about another guy she recently fucked or wants to fuck, look her dead in her eyes and say, do I really give a fuck about your sex life with other men? He was like, mate, no, you're gonna make me look like a cad. I could never say that to her. She's a good friend. I said, she's a good friend. He said, yes. I said, you love the friendship. He said, yes. I said, then why are you talking to me? A question I asked the guys in London that got them quiet for a stretch. I said, how many of y'all consider yourself a well-mannered gentleman? Like 90% of the guys rose their hand. So how many of you guys consider yourself, you know, a nice guy? Someone that women says nothing but great things about. Again, vast majority of hands went up. I said, how's that working out for you? And the guys was just sitting there like, damn. Fear of rejection makes you just become a full of shit person. He knew he didn't want to be this woman's friend. He knew he didn't want to be this woman's friend. He definitely didn't want to hear about her talking about fucking other men. Anyway, skipping over some details, he resisted for a while taking my advice, but finally, sure enough, the next time they had lunch, she started bringing up a guy. She's like, yeah, this guy recently slept with, he doesn't call me back, but you know, every time I fuck him, you know, I never hear from him. Let's stop right there. Now this guy I'm consulting with, he's the friendly guy, right? He's nice, he's a gentleman, right? Now she's not giving him any pussy. But yet, this guy who never calls her back, only calls her when he wants to fuck her, what is she continuing to do? He's fucking her. You think the guy who was fucking her cared about being called an asshole? A cad, whatever? You think he cared about that shit? See, that was one of my first epiphanies that led me to Mo One, is that a phrase I tell guys repeatedly: positive reactions are overrated and negative reactions are misleading. Remember that. Positive reactions are overrated, negative reactions are misleading. And what I mean by that is that when I think of women in my life that I've interacted with in my life that had nothing but good things to say about me, the type of women that would say, oh, Alan, he's a sweetheart, he's a great guy. Those are the women who's never sucked my dick. My dick has never been in their pussy. Might be one or two exceptions, but most women who had nothing but good things to say about me, those are my platonic friends. I ain't never fucked them. But the women who've had at least one, if only one, lighthearted, minor criticism, like, Alan, you're so cocky. Alan, you're so full of yourself. Alan, you can be an asshole at times. Alan, you can be a jerk at times. Those are the women I fucked. So Mode 3, that's what it do. So the example number 1 again was pretending to be a woman's platonic friend or be content with being a platonic friend when you really want to date her or have casual sex. The other one was the one I touched on at the beginning of the presentation. Giving a woman the impression you want a long-term, emotionally profound relationship when you know you just really want a one-night stand, a weekend fling, or some other variation of casual sex. Why would a man not be straightforward about that? Because he's afraid of what? Rejection. Most guys, I've had too many guys admit this. I say, why aren't you straightforward about the fact you want casual sex? Well, I guess mainly because I feel like the woman won't give me casual sex if I'm straightforward about it. And I'm like, okay, that's not necessarily true, but let's say it is true. Let's say she won't give you sex. So? I mean, really, so? I met a woman, a young lady, she's somewhere in here, who told me she was a vegetarian. Imagine if you were a vegetarian, you went into a restaurant that said they were a vegetarian restaurant. And you just start eating some food and you start having a fucking allergic reaction to some shit. And you say, fuck, was there some meat in here? Was there some shrimp? And the guy says, oh shit. I forgot, yeah, there is little microscopic pieces of shrimp in there. I'm allergic to shrimp. Why didn't you tell me that up front? Well, I didn't want to tell you up front because I thought you wouldn't eat here if I tell you up front. So I tell you afterwards, you know? Would you be cool with that shit? Would you be like, oh, okay. You wanted some business, so you misled me, and I guess I'm cool with that. No, you would curse them the fuck out. You would probably try to sue their ass. And I would feel that way about any food if somebody gave me products that they gave me the impression it wasn't in. That's the same way of dealing with women, man. I know guys, I was telling my sister, there's a guy who came up to me at the first London, and I was asked a question about cheating. Me and this other speaker, we were asked what our thoughts were on cheating. And they said, one said, just simply, what are your thoughts on cheating? The other one said, if you had a girlfriend, you had women on the side, would you be honest and tell your girlfriend that you got women on the side? Now the other speakers, I think his main response was, he said, a gentleman doesn't tell. If that's his thing, more power to him. And you know, when you hear multiple speakers, you're gonna hear somebody say something that's contradictory to me. It's all about what resonates with you. I just can only tell you my truth. But what I told the guys is, I said, number one, I don't believe in cheating. And I don't say that from a self-righteous standpoint, but I just say, if I know I want to fuck multiple women, I tell each woman, I don't tell them names, but I'll tell the woman, I say, hey, I gotta let you know, I'm playing the field right now. I'm not trying to be monogamous. I'm not trying to have anything emotionally profound, but I'm gonna let you know, you might see me out socially with another woman. I don't want that to freak you out because I'm seeing other women. And I let them tell me. If they cool with that program, then we proceed. If I know they have a major reaction to that, then I'm like, okay, we're not dealing with each other. Anyway, this guy comes up to me and tells me he was very emotional, like he was going to cry. And I was like, wow, what did I say that got you to this point? And he said his father was cheating on his mother with a married woman, and the husband found out and came over and shot his father in front of his mother and his siblings. Imagine going the rest of your life with that memory and shit. And some guys have accused me of fear mongering. They say, oh, you fear mongering with stories like that, man. Like we're gonna get shot in the head because we cheated on a bitch. You might. I ain't saying that definitely will happen, but I'm not gonna say, like a guy in Vegas tried to challenge me. He said, Alan, I read your book. I didn't read it with a fine tooth comb, but he said, I browsed through the major concepts. He said, the problem I had with your book, Alan, is you try to attach ethics with getting laid. He said, there are no ethics to getting laid. When he comes to getting pussy, you just get some pussy. And a few of the guys around the table started laughing, like, yeah, that's what we talking about. You just get laid. I said, you just get laid. He said, yeah. I said, no ethics, huh? He said, no fucking ethics. Those don't go in the same sense. I said, damn, you know what? You're right, dude. Why don't we and you go out this afternoon and find a 14-year-old hot number and just take turns fucking her. Just gangbang her ass. He said, what? 14, man? I ain't fucking no 14-year-old chick. I said, why not? What, you got some age-related ethics and shit? Of course, he was like, touche. I said, okay, maybe that was extreme. Why don't we find a woman that's of age, 21, 25, and you distract her, and then I'll put some date rape drugs in her drink while she's not looking. He's like, man, that's fucked up. I was like, what you talking about? It's about getting laid, right? It's about the pussy. You got some ethics related, some drugs and shit? Some fuck. Again, by the time I had finished with him, most of his buddies as cheerleaders got up from the table and walked away. And of course he ended up acknowledging. He said, okay, I see your point. He said, me and you don't have the exact same ethics, but yes, obviously, I guess I do have ethics. I said, we all do. Some of you guys in this room might not ever have the same ethics that I have. But that's my ethic. My ethic is I'm not trying to bullshit a woman into bed. I'm not trying to make a woman feel like I'm gonna be her new boyfriend or her future husband in order to get some pussy or get my dick sucked. If I just want my dick sucked, I'm gonna tell a woman, I just want my dick sucked. If I just want casual sex, I'm gonna tell a woman, I just want casual sex. Now, if I think there's a possibility of more, I'll leave that door open. Like I might tell a woman, right now, I don't want anything serious. But if our chemistry develops to the point where it's so outstanding that I really enjoy your company, you know, I might want to upgrade it to a monogamous relationship, which I have done before. But I don't like to, as I call it, go in the side door or the back door. If I want casual sex, I'm going in the front door. But anyway, so this is mode 3. Mode 2, that's a guy who's not so much afraid of rejection, but he can handle, for the most part, being rejected, but he can't handle being criticized or insulted, like those theatrical reactions I was talking about. He doesn't want a woman to call him an asshole or a jerk and all that stuff. So some of the characteristics of a mode 2 guy would be he becomes very flattering, entertaining, friendly, accommodating, agreeable. That's not all bad. That's not all bad. If I was comparing mode 2 to mode 3, I would say mode 2 is much better than mode 3. Much better than mode 3. The main weakness of mode 2 though, to give you one quick example would be, let's say you went up to a woman in a nightclub and you did all that small talky shit and you were real friendly and, I'll give you an example. I'll give you a real life example. I was just telling a couple guys, God wrote me, I receive emails and testimonies all the time. This guy wrote me, and he lived in this flat with 2 buddies. And they went out to a nightclub, they wanted him to go, but he decided to just stay back at home. They came back with 2 women, and he said he noticed his 2 roommates was engaging in all that trivial small talk. Now on the positive end, they were making them laugh. The girls were laughing at everything they said, and saying stuff like, you're so funny, oh my God. But one woman left about an hour after she got there. Then there was one woman remaining. Then they continued with the small talk. And so this guy who had laid back, he had read my book. So he said to himself, well, I'm gonna put mode 1 in play here. So first his first objective was to encourage his roommate to be more mode 1. He said he went to his roommate like, dude, you know, you engaging in too much small talk. You need to get straight to the point and let her know the reason you brought her back here is because you want to fuck her. The guy's like, no, man, she's going to call me an asshole, man. She's going to call me a jerk. I can't have that. You know, she'll tell all girlfriends that I was just like this horny jerk and shit. He was like, but why'd you bring her back here? Did you bring her back here for laughs and giggles? So anyway, they continue talking. The woman says she got to go. He could tell the woman was starting to lose interest in the conversation. So before she got ready to go, he tapped her. And he said, hey, I just want to let you know, I think you're very attractive. I think you're very sexy. And I would love to take you in my bedroom right now and just bang the shit out of you. What do you think she did? What? What did you say? She was testing his what? Say no, balls. Say she was testing his balls.
Testing his balls.
Say it again, everybody. Say it again. Matter of fact, you'll realize that those 3 words are my favorite words. Say it again. Matter of fact, that's what the book is called. Say it again.
She was testing his balls.
Okay, thank you. But what did he do? He held his ground. He's basically like, yeah, I said it, and. So at first she left. She acted like she was leaving. She went to the door, he said. She came back, she said, no, what is your name? I ain't met you 2 friends, what is your name? He said, why you want to know my name? He said, I'll tell you my name while I'm banging you in my bedroom. And again, she was like, you know, you said you should fully yourself. So then she got ready to leave again. Now this time, the second time, he said she did leave, but then she came back like a couple minutes later. And what was kind of awkward for him, he said, was that when she came back the second time, his roommate, who was the one who basically brought her from the club, he thought she was coming back for him. And she said, oh, hey, no, actually, I want to talk to him. I'm so sure he ended up fucking her. He didn't even go to the club. He didn't pull her from the club. But yeah, he was at home. And he fucked her. Explain that to me. How 2 guys could pull these 2 women to the flat, have them laughing and giggling. Isn't that a positive reaction when you say? If you got a woman smiling, laughing, giggling, when you say, gosh, she probably likes me. That's a positive reaction. But neither one of those 2 guys got their dick sucked, and neither one of those 2 guys got fucked. They didn't fuck her. This guy, all he did was say, I want to take you in my room and bang the shit out of you. He got criticized. He got insulted, but he got the pussy. And that's been my experience. Anybody who knows me, has hung around me, knows that's been my experience. I've had women go the fuck off on me, and either later on that day I fucked them, a couple days later I fucked them, a couple weeks, a couple months, whatever. But a good portion of the women I fucked in my life were women who initially were like, I can't believe you said some shit like that to me, or I can't believe you could be such an asshole, you know? So the mode 2 guy, if you're mode 2, if that's your thing, you just have an aversion to having provocative conversations with women, and you're really thin-skinned, and I tell guys honestly, I say, no, don't try to be mode 1. If you're a really thin-skinned guy, and you're really sensitive to adverse reactions and criticisms, do not be mode 1, because it's not going to be for you. And I just keep it real with the guys, because there's some guys who honestly, in Las Vegas, there was these 2 guys, they were like, hey man, we want to be mode 1. They were from USC in California. They said, we want to be mode 1, but we don't want to get a reputation on campus, you know, for being like, you know, horny assholes and horny jerks. I said, okay. I said, how long in the rest of your life are you going to go proceed in life allowing other people to dictate how you behave? And they sat there rubbing their chins. That's the thing you got to ask yourself. How long in life you going to go through being scared of criticism the way a kid is scared of the classroom bully? Oh, I'm scared of being called an asshole. I'm scared of being called a jerk. I'm scared they're going to call me horny. You got to be who you are. That's what mode 1 is really about. It's not, mode one is not a get laid technique. I mean, you will get some pussy, but the ultimate, you can say ultimate objective of mode one is to be your real self. To be your real self. And a lot of people misconstrue that comment when you tell people be yourself. A lot of people confuse that to mean, oh, so you mean I need to act the way I've normally been acting up to this point. No, that's not the same thing. To be yourself doesn't mean act the way you've acted up to this point. Because more than likely, up to this point, you've absorbed so much bullshit social programming that it's totally distorted who you really are. What I try to do is peel away the layers of bullshit programming. So that's, like for example, I get a lot of comments and sometimes criticisms on my X-rated style. Now in my book, I don't specifically tell guys in order to be mode one, you gotta use X-rated language. A lot of guys do adopt that, but I don't specifically say that. I'm X-rated because that's who I am as a guy. That's just who Alan Roger Currie is. You know, and I tell guys, if that's not your natural MO, then use PG-13 language. But see, I know for me, I don't enjoy having sex with a woman who doesn't like listening to me talk dirty. So why would I want to fuck a woman if she has a very fucked up reaction to me talking dirty? Mode 4, you never want to get in the mode 4 zone. Never, ever, ever want to get in the mode 4 zone. When you usually end up here is when you've been mode 2 and you've been mode 3 and you didn't get the results you wanted, so now you're resentful about it. You're pissed off. You like basically, if a mode 2 guy might say, God, I was flattering with, okay, good example is those 2 guys' roommates I was talking about. They're probably gonna end up here because of that incident. Because their attitude is probably like, shit, I was friendly with these women. Oh, I'm hearing your voice is competing with mine. Those guys probably feel like I was friendly with these women. I had a cordial personality. I made them laugh. How come my roommate ended up fucking her? So now they're gonna become resentful towards one, like, God, that's some bullshit. You know, we bought her drinks in the club. You know, I know a lot of guys, I've had friends, they're like, man, I wined and dined this chick, I went out on 4 dates with her, spent all this money, and like, she didn't even give me a tongue kiss. I'm like, whose fault is that? Why'd you think that you being financially generous was gonna get her pussy wet? Do you think, does anybody here think if you laid a $100 bill on a woman's pussy that it's just gonna automatically get wet?
The bill?
Don't get me wrong, gold diggers, there are women who are gold diggers and gold diggers like money. But if you just left the money in the room with the woman, it ain't like if you came back in the room, the dollar bill's gonna be fucking like, yeah, whose pussy is this? Whose pussy is this? I mean, money ain't gonna fuck the woman. She ain't gonna be playing up with her pussy looking at the, oh shit, damn. Oh fuck, I'm about to come. Shit ain't gonna happen. Mode 4, I always use an example of, what is a misogynist? Anybody know what a misogynist is? Define a misogynist for me. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. A woman can be a misogynist too. But yeah, it's typically applied to a man who hates women. Ted Bundy, that name ring a bell? Ted Bundy? He was, for those that don't know, he was a notorious serial killer of women. He was what most psychologists said was a misogynist. Now, you know what's interesting about Ted Bundy? He was up here killing women, like taking a sledgehammer and just beating the shit out of them. But you know, all the people who knew him, even his own family members, they said, God, we can't believe Ted did this. He was such a nice guy. He was such a great guy. What does that say to you? How can a guy be perceived as a great guy but be just killing women? Was he authentic with his close friends and family? Was he his real true self? If he was his real true self, his close friends wouldn't have known he hated women. But he put on a facade. That's what a lot of us do. Socially, we're interacting with others socially. When we're interacting with, particularly with members of the opposite sex, we put on a facade. The mode 2 facade, the mode 3 facade. And then basically what happens when that facade does not work, when we feel like it did not produce the results we wanted, we go to mode 4. When you mode 4, you know you mode 4 when you were just blatantly rude with women, harshly critical, mean-spirited and insulting, misogynistic, antagonistic. This goes back to the fear of rejection. Now when you think a handsome, playboy, smooth type guy like George Clooney, you would think he would be just this confident guy and approach women left and right? A lot of women consider him a stud or a heartthrob. This is what he said in Playboy magazine in 2000. He said, I don't go up to girls I don't know in a bar and ask them to dance. I never have, never. I've never gone up to somebody I don't know and asked them out. I just won't do it and never did because I never wanted to take my ego, as fragile as any guy's, and hand it to some girl so that she could demolish it. To me, it has always seemed like a stupid thing to do. So in terms of like, hey, you want to go out? I don't do it. He went on to basically say that half the reason he wanted to be rich and famous was so chicks would come to him as opposed to him having to approach chicks. George Clooney, man. I mean, I still love Clooney, but I ain't gonna lie, I lost a little, I took away some brownie points when I read that. But I was empathetic because most of my clients are just like him. Why do single heterosexual men want to approach women? And if you get this answer wrong, I'm kicking you out.
Because they got all the pussy.
You know, there was a movie called Wall Street with Michael Douglas and Charlie Sheen. And towards the end of the movie, they're getting into it because Charlie Sheen realizes that Michael Douglas has been manipulating him. And he says, how many houses on the beach do you need? How many water skis do you need? How many, nice cars do you need? Why is it just all about money? And Michael Douglas basically says, I'm paraphrasing, but he says, motherfucker, business is all about making money. Everything else is just entertaining conversation. When it comes to dating and relationships, ultimately it's because you want to get together with that woman and fuck. Talking about the movies and her favorite foods and all that shit, yeah, you getting to know different quirks about her personality through, I'm not saying every conversation with a woman has to be sexual, center around sex, but to act like I've seen guys go up to women and say, well, I want you to know I'm not just talking to you because I want to get in your pants. What the fuck? What the fuck? Who has said that in here? Be honest, if you're willing to be honest. Who has told a woman, start off a conversation saying, I'm not willing to get in, I'm not talking to you because I'm trying to get in your pants? My question is, why the fuck you talking to her then? Just for entertaining conversation? It's not a matter of do we want sex, but it's more a matter specifically of what type of sex we want. All men, I believe, want one of 4 types of sex at any given moment in time with any given woman in time. Long-term monogamous sex. Now this is the type of sex, most men, you still have some guys who are shy and cowardly about letting this be known. But men who are reasonably confident don't have any hesitation letting women know they're interested in this. Why? Because they know most women are interested in long-term monogamous sex. It's the other 3 categories where men become very fearful. That would be short-term monogamous sex. That would make you what's called a serial monogamous. There was an actor who used to be well-known named Warren Beatty. And that's what the name that they used to always give him. They would say, Warren Beatty is the most notorious serial monogamous in Hollywood. What that means, serial monogamous, he wasn't fucking like 5, 6 women at a time. He would, when he fucked a woman, he only fucked that one woman, but he only fucked her, say, for maybe 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, a year. Then he was on to the next woman. Then he fucked her for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. So that's different from a womanizer. A womanizer would be a guy who's fucking multiple women. Serial monogamous is just when you go from one to one to one. Long-term non-monogamous, Do you know this faction, they did a report, some show I was watching, is probably the most heavily growing in society. Best example of this would be like open marriages, swingers, couple swappers. They said in America now there's as many as like 10 million people who are into some form of swinging, couple swapping, or open relationships. That's when you, and I'm not gonna touch too much on that because actually that's Johnny's, that's his niche, is polyamorous dating. That's the formal term for it, polyamorous dating. And then short-term non-monogamy. I would argue that out of the four, this is the one that most men are afraid of being straightforward about. Is that they just want to say a one-night stand or a weekend fling or 2 or 3 weeks of casual sex with a woman. Why? Because they feel like most women are going to have an aversion to that. And to a degree, they're right. And I'm going to tell you why. And women, when I say this, they laugh, but then they'll usually say, Alan, that's true. Women, see, a man can have some really good pussy on a Friday night and still he could have the discipline to leave it alone. If a woman gets some good dick she enjoys in her pussy, she don't want it one night. That would be like giving me the best chicken wings you ever could cook and saying, Alan, this is only gonna be for one night.
That's racist.
I love chicken wings. I love chicken wings. No, but seriously, women, when they get somebody that they enjoy having inside of them, they want that guy repeatedly. So that's one of the reasons, like some guys think it's because women don't like, I've had men say, you know, I don't think women like sex as much as us. I was like, that's bullshit. I never dated a woman who didn't want to fuck as much, if not more than me, ever. All of my ex-girlfriends wanted to fuck at minimum as much as I did, if not more. The term nymphomaniac came from women. That ain't a male term. Matter of fact, a guy enlightened me at the Las Vegas Direct Dating Summit. Sasha had this guy from Chicago named James Amaro. And me and him had this long discussion. He's a very intelligent guy. He's also into polyamory, and he teaches domination submission. But he said, Alan, most guys don't know, but he said, up until the Victorian era, he said, like nowadays, you know how the media basically portrays men as like the hornier sex, like we're just walking around horny. He said, believe it or not, it was just the opposite a few centuries ago. I said, really? He said, yeah, up until the Victorian era, women were actually considered the hornier sex. But then he said, starting with the Victorian era, that's when the roles kind of changed. It mainly came from married women was getting frustrated with their husbands fucking, as they call them, loose women, promiscuous women. So then they became more of an emphasis on women carrying themselves like a conservative, prudish type woman. But yeah, when women get good dick, they want it regularly. So that's why a lot of them will have an adverse reaction to casual sex. But my thing is, if they do, so what? Because some of them will give you the impression. Oh, here's another thing, and this is where I'm going to get a little bit on my soapbox. I'll say this in my book, if you read my one. There's a lot of things that women do that I don't care for and disagree with, but there's a lot of things my own gender does, of course, that I don't like and disagree with. One big thing I can't stand that men do, but I know men do it all the time, is you pursue a woman to fuck her, and then you turn around and tell your buddy Joe and Larry, man, yeah, I fucked that bitch Cindy, she's a fucking slut. But then you wonder why women want to play games and act hard to get in bed. Shit, if I was a woman, I would do the fucking same thing. Why the fuck you gonna pursue a woman to fuck her and then turn around and judge her? I'm gonna tell you as a man to man, that's fucked up. And you probably have cost yourself a lot of pussy if you've been guilty of doing that. That's at least half the reason why a lot of women play games and why they give you token resistance or resist casual sex. Because they don't want you doing, as they call it, the locker room talk. You know, now, if you got a girlfriend and she's cheating on you and fucking 5 of your best friends, yeah, you go ahead and call her a slut. If she told you she was going to just fuck you and be monogamous to you, but you found out, then yeah, that's a scenario where I say she deserves to have some names thrown on her. and some other similar scenarios. But for a woman that just agreed to give you some pussy because you wanted the pussy, but now you're going, I had a speaker, I'm not going to say his name because some of you might be familiar with the speaker, but he spoke at the London one. He basically said that. He admitted that that was the attitude he had. Matter of fact, he admitted it in his attempt to criticize Mo One. He basically said, I don't believe in being verbally direct about my sexual intentions. He said, number one, I don't think it works. And if it did work, that would make me look at a woman as a slut. Or he said slag, actually. He said, any woman who would give me the pussy from me directly telling her I wanted the pussy, he said, I wouldn't respect a woman. Man, let's just say I got my revenge on him on stage. But, so if you're guilty of doing that, you need to realize you're contributing to the duplicity of women. What does duplicity mean? Anybody know what duplicity? Johnny, don't answer everything. One of you guys, you know what it means for a woman to be sexually duplicitous? Because I use that term a lot. One of my female friends, she said, Alan, there's two words you love that start with a D, is disingenuous and duplicitous. Disingenuous, of course, just simply means phony, insincere. Duplicitous, which is what a lot of what I would call game playing women do. And this is what I get into in the book I have here, Who Said Again. It's about women's social programming. And, well, I don't want to go there just yet. Whatever I don't finish with this, because I'm actually going to cut my presentation off in about 10 to 15 minutes, and I'm going to open it up for question and answer. But I will be up here again tomorrow night for another hour and a half. So some of the stuff I'll get to tomorrow. But just real quickly on sexually duplicitous women. A sexually duplicitous woman is simply a woman who publicly acts like she's this innocent, wholesome, conservative, good girl. But privately, when you get her behind closed doors, she's just a wild, kinky animal in bed. But she doesn't want to show you that side too quickly or too easily because of related with what I was talking about. She doesn't want to be judged. And that's why a lot of women give those theatrical reactions like, you know, I don't believe you're talking to me that way. I'm not any type of hoe or slut. Because what that comes from, most women are socially programmed. These are two words I use a lot in my workshops. Social programming. Most women are programmed to present themselves as a good girl. Because most mothers believe that's the only way their daughters will find a long-term boyfriend or husband. Fathers, of course, contribute to that. See, some of us men, we can be so hypocritical. We don't want to fuck somebody else's daughter, somebody else's sister, somebody else's mother. But if we have a daughter, girl, sex is disgusting, okay? Remember that. Sex is nasty, it's disgusting, it's representative of gutter thoughts. And then a woman grows up. She's like, golly, okay, my father said that sex is disgusting, it's nasty, it should be avoided. But damn, when I'm around that one guy, God, my pussy gets real wet. And I do want to give him some pussy. But no, my mother and father said I need to be a good girl and keep my legs crossed. But God, that guy makes me just want to get on my knees and suck his cock. So they developed what's called internal conflicts. And if you read that book, I talk about that. Have you ever seen a cartoon where you have the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other? Seen that in a lot of cartoons. If you haven't, basically saying there's a voice of reason talking to you and a voice of temptation talking to you. I say with women, they have a social programming voice, then they have that raw hormone voice. And so when you're going to get that reaction, those theatrical reactions, that's because in that woman's mind, that social programming voice is saying, hey, Linda, remember, you're a good girl. You're not supposed to be letting a man talk to you in an X-rated manner and talk to you in a real seductive manner. But then a raw hormone voice is saying, well, shit, I like what he's saying. He get my pussy wet. And then it's like back and forth, this voice, this voice, this voice. And that's when they start giving you those theatrical reactions, testing your balls. Another thing I want to touch on before I get to the question and answer, I was telling some of the guys I was speaking to before the presentation, one of the things I emphasize also in Who Said Again is what you're listening to, the power of the voice. A lot of guys want to say, man, my sexual tool is right here, man. This is how I get the ladies. That's bullshit. Your dick only has an impression on a woman after you fuck her. But from the time you meet her, up until the first time you fuck her, it's about your, well, it's a number of things. I'm not gonna say it's only these things, but I would say for me, it's about your voice and your conversational skills and the size of your balls, figuratively speaking. Your voice, your conversational skills, and the size of your balls. Here's the biggest testament to how to voice, and I talked about this at a couple other workshops. Women have paid me to have regular and semi-regular phone sex with them. Some of the women I've had phone sex with had not seen me yet. Think about that. So that just lets you know you don't have to be an outstandingly handsome guy. I could have been the hunchback of Notre Dame. I had a woman, I told the story in Las Vegas, I had a woman call me from a temp agency. She had no clue what I looked like. But we were talking and she kind of opened the door for us. She said, Mr. Currie, can I tell you something? I said, sure. And then she quickly said, nothing. I said, no, tell me. And she went, nothing. I said, come on. She said, okay, you have a very nice phone voice. Now, in my more conventional days, I want to just say, oh, thank you, and continue with the conversation. I said, I bet my voice gets your pussy wet, doesn't it? She said, oh my God, I don't believe you said that. Oh my God. I said, okay, you through getting all theatrical on me? I said, now tell me, you want to play with your pussy right now for me, don't you? And she says, I can't believe we're having this conversation. Oh my God, she's still freaking out. But I just was still relaxed. I said, no, seriously, tell me, go ahead and say that. Say, Mr. Currie, your voice gets my pussy real wet. She said, Mr. Currie, your voice gets my pussy real wet. I said, say it again. She said, Mr. Currie, your voice gets my pussy real wet. I said, say it again. I told you I let her say it again. She said, your pussy gets my voice so wet. Next thing you know, she was playing with her pussy in her office. And this was the thing, and this is where I'm gonna ask Beth, my assistant, to come up. I want to demonstrate something. Because now I can take a joke, and I can take people impersonating me and teasing me. As long as, if you're gonna impersonate me though, be on the mark. But when I was in Vegas, a couple of the other speakers and maybe a couple of other attendees, they kept telling me that they had this impression that they said, Alan, I can't just walk up to women like you do. I said, well, number one, how do you think I walk up to women? Oh, you go up to women, you say, hey, I want to fuck you silly. I was like, where did you see that? What video did you see me do that on? I said, well, we didn't see a video you doing it, but I mean, just like kind of from reading your books, we just, and another guy said the same thing. I think one of the speakers, he got on stage and did some brief impersonation where he said, or you can be like Alan Roger Currie and be like, hey, baby, I want to get all in your pussy. I was like, what the fuck? I mean, it was mainly said in a humorous, again, I didn't get too agitated by it, but that's so far from, so what was mind-blowing to a lot of guys in Vegas is when I showed them how I do. And what I do is, when I approach a woman, and I talk about this in the book, the first thing I do before I approach a woman is I size her up. I look at her body language. Because women, generally, I would put their body language in three categories. They're either going to have receptive body language, indifferent body language, or non-receptive body language. It's going to fall in one of those three: receptive, indifferent, or non-receptive. How do you know that for sure? When you approach a woman, you want to first get in what I call her space. Most body language experts say the 3-foot radius that surrounds us is our space. So if I get less than 3 feet of her, now I'm in her space. At this point, she's going to do one of 3 things. And this is what I pay attention to. And this determines what I say, how provocative I might get, etc. If I approach a woman, I get in her space, and her first reaction is to take a step back or lean away from me, that means that something about my presence or what I've said up to this point makes her feel uncomfortable. She's either at maximum, she's just not attracted to you, she's not interested in you, or at minimum, again, you said something or did something that makes her feel uncomfortable. So in that situation, I wouldn't even, 99% chance, I'm not gonna say anything really X-rated or risque. If I get in her space and she just basically stays in the same spot, she doesn't move closer, she doesn't move away, she just stays. That's when I would call that the indifferent zone. That means there's a 50% chance she could be interested in you, 50% chance she's not. She wants to hear more from you that's gonna solidify her decision. Now here's when I know I got a bingo. If I get in a woman's space and she either A, moves closer to me as I'm talking, like some guys will ask me, they'll say, Alan, I've seen women criticize you, but you look like you're unfazed. You look like it didn't affect you at all. I said, what else did you notice other than her criticize me and insult me? And they won't know. I'll say, did you notice as she was criticizing me, she was actually moving closer to me? Who does that? So if a woman moves close to me or she lets me, if a woman lets me talk to where I can talk to her in her ear, that's where I do most of my X-rated talk. It ain't no, hey baby, my shit is more like, you know, we need to hook up. We need to hook up the next week or two and suck on your nipples and slide my hard dick all in your pussy. Love a hard dick in your pussy, don't you? Mm-hmm. Say yes, sir. Now, I know this is embarrassing her, but she knew she was gonna do some role playing. But yeah, seriously, that's how I, just about all my dirty talk is I'm this close. I'm never talking dirty to a woman from here like, hey baby, I want you to suck my dick. No, my shit is like, I want to just slide my dick all in your mouth. Just fuck your mouth. Say, I love having my mouth fucked.
I love having my mouth fucked.
Say it again.
I love having my mouth fucked.
Did you hear me say it again? Say it again. That might just sound like a phrase you can have. See, thank you, Beth. See, one thing I was telling the guys, and this is where I can do a little horn tooting. One thing women have told me for years, they say, Alan, when you talk dirty, you have a way of talking that conjures up visuals. See, like, again, going to that real animated example, hey, baby, suck my dick. That don't conjure up no fucking visuals. That just makes you look like a dick, like a drunk truck driver. But when you're in a woman's ear, you like, you know what I want to do? I want to just slowly take my hard dick and just slide it in and out your mouth so that your lips are just wrapped around it. That woman starts picturing that. She says, in her mind, the only way she gonna have a negative reaction to that is if she, say, had some kind of traumatic experience sucking dick. Some guy broke her jaw because fucking her mouth. I mean, seriously. But if a woman has had a positive experience, matter of fact, I'll give you a little secret that I admit in this book. Some guys find it a little different. But I've had clients of mine say, they say, damn, Alan, that worked like a charm. Most of us are so egotistically insecure that we only want a woman to think about us. And we don't want them to think about no other man. I go against that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. If I can get a woman's pussy wet thinking about Sasha, I will do it, and I've done it. No, really, like let's say I meet a woman and she's, you know, cause see, if I haven't fucked her, yeah, I could get her turned on, but she doesn't have a reference point. Now, once you fucked a woman, at least once she has a reference point. But if I haven't fucked her, let's say this woman I meet is a Brad Pitt fan. I just want her to think about fucking, period. I want her to visualize getting fucked. It don't necessarily have to be with me, so I might say to that woman, I might say, so I see all these posters in your apartment. You love Brad Pitt, don't you? She say, yeah, Brad Pitt, God, he's so fucking hot. I said, is he? You just love him, don't you? Oh shit, I love him. I bet you love to suck his dick on you. Hell, man. Good. No, really. I bet you just love to have Brad Pitt just take his dick and just put it in your mouth and sure enough, they'll say, yeah, I love him. I say it again. So I'd love to have Brad's dick in my mouth. I love to have Brad's dick in my mouth. Now I got them thinking about sucking dick now. I ain't got them talking about sucking my dick yet. But who's in the room with him, me or Brad? Brad's off with Angelina somewhere. Now I'm flattering him by she talking about how bad she want to suck his dick, but just her thinking about it, her pussy is starting to get wet, and I'll move closer to her and I'll start playing with her pussy. I said, oh shit, I bet you love it if Brad just bent you over and fucking pulled your hair. Oh my God, that would make me come so hard. Now I'm finger fucking her pussy. Then I just slowly transition to, you love Brad Pitt, but whose finger's in your pussy? Yours. Say it again. Yours. Seriously, I've told guys that, well, they read it in there, and some guys I've told, and a couple of them, they thought it was like crazy. Like, man, I remember that woman talking about another guy. Then a month later, damn, Ellen, fuck, man, like this one chick, like, first I got pissed, she kept talking about her ex-boyfriend, right? And I'm like, man, why don't you quit talking? Then I thought about what you said, so I said, yeah, your ex-boyfriend, I bet he used to fuck the shit out of you. And he said, the girl was like, well, yeah, he's a jerk, but yeah, he used to fuck me real good. He said, he was like, say it again. She's like, my ex-boyfriend used to fuck me real good. And he said, next thing you know, she started getting turned on. And then, but of course, once his dick was in her pussy, he was like, but whose dick is in your pussy? Yours. Question is answered. Anybody got any questions related to what I've talked about so far? Again, this is part one of my presentation. I will be talking for roughly another hour, hour and a half tomorrow night here on day 2. But anybody got any questions that stick out in their mind? Because if you don't, I'm gonna just keep talking until my full 2 hours is up. Okay.
Does it make sense to do some frame setting before? You say to her, for example, you say to her, let me ask you 3 things. Yeah, are you a spontaneous girl? Are you adventurous? And do you like it when the man is open, direct you? So she will say yes to all the 3 questions. Yeah? And then when you come up with your things, it's more likely that she will...
I will say, I will give you an 80 to 90% yes and a small no. Here's why. The only thing I tell guys not to do, and I've seen a lot of guys do this, they use what I call a buffer. And what I mean by the buffer is, there's no point of being straightforward with a woman if you're gonna say to her something like, hey, you know, excuse me for saying something that I know is totally unconventional, right? And I know it's just gonna blow your mind and raise your eyebrows, right? I'm getting ready to say something that's really gonna blow your mind, right? But here it is. You know, I wanna put my dick in your mouth. See, when you say stuff like that, what you're saying is, I normally don't talk this way, but I read this guy, Alan Currie's book, and like he said, be real bold. Now I want you to know, if you end up rejecting me, this really wasn't really me talking. That was just some stuff I learned from the book. No, seriously, I've known guys to do that. There was this one friend I had, he would do that. He would tell women he was about to say something bold and straightforward, and then he would say something bold and straightforward, but that takes the effect away. So that's the only part of me that says, if it represents a buffer. Now, as far as what I call qualifying, I qualify when I ask questions a lot of times. Like one of my main, I mean, I'm kind of unique from woman to woman, but the closest thing I have to a default opening would be, I'll usually approach a woman and I'll say, so, at one point in the next 2 to 3 weeks, would you like to share my company one-on-one? That covers a lot of bases, because if she's married, what is she going to immediately tell me? That she's married. Or if she's romantically involved, she's going to immediately tell me that. So, and some guys ask me specifically, they say, well, Alan, why don't you ever say to a woman, like, you know, so why don't you hook up with me like in the next couple hours? You'll read this in my latest book, The Possibility of Sex, but one thing, I've had a lot of same-day seductions, but here's the most interesting thing. Most of my same-day seductions were not planned to be same-day seductions, at least on my part. I never want to come across a woman like I'm over anxious to fuck her. Matter of fact, I tell a funny story. Well, you're gonna read this if you read my latest book. It's a really good book called Possibility of Sex. It's about the time. Did I talk about the 4 types of women? Oh, I do want to talk about that before I wrap up today. Oh, there it is. I say every woman you interact with is going to fall into one of these 4 categories. One of these 4 categories. There's 2 that I call your upfront, straightforward types, and 2 I call your more tricky, manipulative types. Reciprocators. A reciprocator would be a woman that if I approached Beth and told her I was attracted to her, I thought she was sexy and I wanted to fuck her, she's gonna be like, shoot, let's make it happen. She ain't gonna give me no resistance, she ain't gonna give me no criticisms, none of that. She knows she's attracted to you and she's down. Rejectors. Those are women, you approach them, you let them know you want to connect with them, they just gonna straightforwardly tell you, no, I'm not interested. And see, here's the problem. This gets into the whole direct versus indirect argument. I know there's a lot of indirect guys want you to avoid these. They think these are the worst women in the world, is the rejectors. That if you get rejected, that means you did something wrong. I'm one of the few that say, no, you didn't. You know, I hear guys say, hey man, Alan, you know, I was at the club and I used mode 1 on like 10 women and it didn't work. I said, what do you mean it didn't work? Well, I mean, I didn't go home, I didn't fuck any of the women. I say, did you tell them straightforwardly that you wanted to fuck them? Yeah. Okay. Man, like, but I mean, it didn't result in them giving me the pussy. I say, do you think every woman you approach is gonna open their legs for you and give you the pussy? Do you really think that? Matter of fact, in my book, which a lot of my readers give me credit for, most guys, when they write books, they give you hype, like subtitles like, you can seduce any woman you want. I tell guys in my introduction section, I say, when you start being mode 1, you're gonna be harshly criticized more than you ever have in your life, and you're probably gonna be rejected more quickly than you ever have in your life. I let you know that up front. Rejection is not a bad thing. If a woman is genuinely not interested in you, I don't look at rejection as bad. The other guys make, but I don't. The only time I look at rejection as a bad thing is when a woman gave you signs that you had the potential, but because you didn't demonstrate your balls, you fucked it up. But those are 2 straightforward types. Reciprocators, rejectors. One more point I'll say about that, I emphasize this in Vegas. No one complaints I get from women. They'll say, Alan, I love your mode 1, but some guys, they'll in their own way try to be mode 1 with me, but when I tell them straightforwardly that I'm not interested, they'll just think they need to be more persistent. There's a difference between resistance and rejection. Anybody work in sales here before? Did they ever tell you that when they did like sales seminars? Because I know when I've worked in sales, they always tell you to recognize the difference between resistance and rejection. If a woman looks you dead in your eyes and says, I'm not interested, or I'm not interested in sharing your company in a romantic or sexual manner, and even more so, her body language supports what she's saying, she's serious, she's not interested. That doesn't mean kick it up a notch and be more persistent. Resistance would be when a woman just gives you a slew of criticisms, but she's never making an attempt to end the conversation. Some I've experienced a number of times. Like when they say, you know, you're so full of yourself, I can't believe you're talking to me that way, and blah, 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 blah. But yet they're moving closer to you. They ending the conversation. That's when you become more persistent. But if a woman tells you straight up, leave me the fuck alone, leave her the fuck alone. Now the 2 trickier types is, got about 10 minutes. Pretenders. That's basically what this book is all about. Pretenders. Pretenders are women who are sexually duplicitous. A pretender is basically a woman that once you let her know you want to connect with her, want to fuck her, she's going to give you all that theatrical blowback. Oh my God, I don't believe you're talking to me that way. Deep down, she wants to fuck you. But what you're doing is you're challenging her social programming and her overall sensibilities. Goes back to the, like I said, the one voice on each shoulder. Her social programming voice is saying, you can't respond positively to this guy. That's not what your mom and dad taught you. Mom and dad said, be a good girl. And you gotta kind of act like you're approved. And you can't let them get away with saying all that X-rated stuff. But the raw hormone says, shit, but damn, the way he like leaned into my ear and said, say it again. Golly, he just get my pussy real wet. Had me talking about Brad Pitt sucking his dick. But damn, my mom, my dad said sex is disgusting. I should avoid sex until I get a husband. They say fathers do that fucked up shit. Like their daughter's supposed to just turn it on when they get married. Sex is disgusting, it's horrible. You get warts if you have sex. But when you get married, please your husband. Mothers, thank goodness, the vast majority of mothers don't do that to their sons. My mother just said, son, make sure you got condoms. Pretenders, they are sexually duplicitous. It ain't all their fault. I blame a lot of it on their parents. Different other factions in society have been telling them that sex before marriage is wrong, casual sex should be avoided, but then they have those internal conflicts. These are the women who you're gonna have those stories, and I hope some of you end up emailing me some stories. Seriously, the pretender type stories are always gonna be along the lines of, hey Alan, check this out, man. I met this woman, right? Like one of you guys gonna write me and say, man, like 2 days after the direct dating summit in Berlin, man, I met this chick in the coffee shop, and I told her I wanted to fuck her, and she like went off on me. But then like a week later, she like calls me, and she's like, well, actually I do wanna. Pretenders, that's their MO. I got so many pretender stories, I could have you here for like 25 hours talking about just different, but that's their thing. They're going to initially resist you, they're going to criticize you, they're going to insult you, but either later on that day, a few days later, a few weeks later. I'll tell one quick story and then I'll move on to time wasters, and time wasters is what I'm going to emphasize tomorrow. But I was in college and I had a TA, or a professor's assistant, and we were talking about handing in this paper, and she had this nice ass. I said, damn, your ass is tailor-made for doggy style. She flips the fuck out. What? What did you say? Oh my God, that is disgusting. I can't believe, do you know I'm your instructor? I'm your professor. I said, no, you're assistant professor. You're a professor's assistant. You're not a full-fledged professor. She said, but if I tell the main professor what you just said to me, you can face some consequences. And I had this female friend who knew I had this bold, straightforward style. And even she was like, kind of like, Alan, I think you fucked up. You might want to apologize. But what do I say when something comes out of your mouth?
Never apologize.
Say it again. Say it again.
Don't ever apologize.
That's right. Because that makes, if you apologize, that lets women know that you were pretending to have what? Now I've admitted whenever I tell this story, of all the times I've been more one with a woman, all the times, this was probably the one incident I was that close to apologize, seriously. Because when she started throwing out threats like, if I tell the professor he could have you suspended, I was like, oh shit. Maybe I do in this one instance say, okay, I didn't mean to be so X-rated with you. But my convictions were just too strong. I said, fuck it, no, I ain't apologize. And my female friend in class, she was like mad. She was like, Alan, I can't believe you didn't apologize to her. Well, it turns out I'm glad I didn't. Classic pretend. This woman went, I wish it was on video. I mean, she went the fuck off on me. A week and a half later, this woman calls me, and I didn't even give her my number. But most college campuses have a student directory. She looked my number up in the student directory. And she says, hey there. And at first I didn't recognize the voice because I don't mean to date myself, but this was before call ID, so I didn't know who the fuck this was. I said, okay, who's this? And when she told me, man, I was floored. She said, yeah, me and my two girlfriends, we're sitting here, we're sipping wine. And guess who was the subject of conversation? I was telling them, I said, what would give him the audacity to say something like that to me? So she started talking about, first she was small talking me, then she starts talking about invite me over to a place. Now, of course, she says, now I want you to come on a place, but nothing's gonna happen. I said, then I'm not coming over. She said, are you serious? I said, if I come over, my dick is going in somebody's mouth. Real talk. I told her that. I said, if I come over, my dick's going in somebody's mouth. She said, you're so full of yourself. I said, that's why you sipping wine talking about me. So sure enough, she said, okay, well, I'm not going to close, these were her words. She said, I'm not going to close the door on anything. You know, we'll just see how the night unfolds. I said, well, you know where I stand. Anyway, I go over there, talk first with her and her two girlfriends. One ends up leaving. Not only did I fuck her, I had a threesome with her and her girlfriend. Same fucking woman who went the fuck off on me. I'm now fucking, of course, man, this is, you don't want to imitate me because I could just be self-serving at times. Of course, what did I have to do? I had to make her apologize while I was fucking her. I said, say I was a bitch. I was a bitch. Say it again. I was a bitch. Say it again. I was a bitch. So I'm sorry for being a bitch, Teresa. I'm sorry for being a bitch. Say it again. I'm sorry for being a bitch. Whose dick is inside you? Yours. Say it again. Yours. Say it again. I'm telling you, once you experience it, I guarantee you're gonna write it. You're gonna say, man, yeah, there's this chick, she blew me off, she cursed me out. Now, some men on message boards, I'm going to different message boards, some guys say, Alan, you're always talking about how manipulative women are, and sometimes I think you hate women, and you despise them. I say, I love women, I love everything about them. But if there's one category of women I don't like, these. I'm not gonna talk too much, because like I said, this is gonna be most of my talk tomorrow. That's related to my last book. I don't have that in paperback form now just yet, but if you go on Amazon, it's called The Possibility of Sex. How naive and lustful men are manipulated regularly. In a nutshell, time wasters are kind of just the opposite of a pretender. Same way a pretender wants to fuck you, but they're gonna try to give you the impression for so many hours, so many days, so many weeks that they don't. Time waster is similar to basically a cock tease. They'll give you the misleading impression that they are interested in giving you some pussy at some lucky day in the future. But they ain't gonna give you shit. You know what's so funny about these four categories? Almost every woman that I've told about these four categories before I explain, they say, Alan, you men in your categories, I know I'm gonna disagree with at least two of these categories before you even start describing. Then after I describe each of them, they're like, damn. They're like, I fall into all four of those categories. Like these two women in Vegas, for example, they told me this was their reasons for falling into each one. They said, Alan, okay, this one woman, her name is Janet. She said, I'm a reciprocator when I meet a guy who expresses interests that are simply on the same page as mine. If like he wants a long-term relationship, I want a long-term relationship, or he wants a weekend fling, I want a weekend fling. She said, that's when I'm gonna be a reciprocator. She said, rejector, that's when not only am I not interested in a guy romantically or sexually, but I don't even want to be like platonic friends with him. I'll be just a rejecter. She said, pretender is when I'm interested in a guy, but we're not on the same page. She said, for example, I want long term, but he wants short term, or I want monogamous, he wants non-monogamous. She said, I'll usually spend a few days, a few weeks pretending like I don't want to fuck him, but inevitably I end up giving him the pussy. And she said, time waster, and a lot of women have echoed her description, and she said, when I'm a time waster is when a guy is very flattering, very entertaining. Remember those adjectives from Mode 2? She said when a guy is flattering, when he's entertaining, when he's financially generous, I'll give him the impression, I won't tell him I will fuck him, but I won't specifically tell him that I'm not gonna give him any pussy. I'll just keep things very vague and ambiguous, keep him guessing, hoping for that lucky day. But the reality is, 99.999% of the time, that lucky day never comes. She just wants to be flattered, she wants to be entertained, she wants you to spend some cash on her, she ain't trying to give you no pussy. The only woman I've ever had disagree with these four categories, some of you might be familiar with this woman, she's one of the few female dating coaches in the industry, Kezia Noble. I interviewed her on my radio show, and she said, Alan, there's no such thing as a time waster. I said, yes, there is. Oh, there's my butt. That means I got just 5 minutes. She said, in her opinion, she said a time waster is just a more challenging version of a pretender. That was her. She said, I don't believe there's any. I said, so you're saying you believe any woman can be fucked? She said, yes. If they follow the right principles, the right rules. I said, so Kezia, tell me this then. Every guy you've met in your life could fuck you. What do you think she said? I know she said, well, of course not. I said, so you're telling me there's been guys you interacted with that you had no desire to have sex with? She said, of course there's been guys. I said, did you tell them all straightforwardly that you didn't want to give them any pussy? Well, no. I was like, basically like, shut the fuck up then. Why you interacting with these women, these guys, and you know you ain't gonna give them no pussy, but you don't tell them straightforwardly you ain't gonna give them no pussy? I said, I bet you if they followed every rule that's in your books, they still couldn't fuck you. And she didn't even argue with that. She said, oh yeah, of course. There's some guys that they follow every rule I have out there, they wouldn't be able to fuck me. I said, exactly. And how can you say there's no such thing as a time waster then? And then she just switched subjects. So that's the 4 types of women. Again, I will continue, I will elaborate more on this tomorrow along with a few other things.